Welcome to Brewsers, a podcast about beer, coffee, booze, and bruisers. I'm your host, Rody John, and today we talk to Michael Weber from TrillerTV. We talk all about his rich history in combat sports, TrillerTV, formerly known as Fight TV, and so much more. There is a special announcement in this show. It is, a little more public knowledge this week. That's why I am making sure it is coming out this week because, he's about to announce it, but I'll let him do all the work. But there's also a great Andre the Giant story in here, so definitely make sure to take a listen if you obviously weren't going to do it already. But while you're doing that, make sure to sign up for our newsletter. It comes out twice a week. You get even more information about our guest. You get fun facts, and you get to find out what's happening with your favorite podcast, all about beer, coffee, booze, and bruisers. So without further ado, here is Michael Weber with TrillerTV. I would like to welcome to the show Mike Weber with TrillerTV, formerly known as Fight TV. How are you doing today, sir?
Doing great.
So for those listening, kind of paint us a word picture. Where are you at? What's going on around you?
So I'm like the rest of the world. I work out of a viral office, my home, which happens to be in Akron, Ohio. Even though our company and our staff are spread all over the world in the US, we're in New York, Atlanta, Las Vegas, Seattle, LA. And then actually most of our staff actually is in Sofia, Bulgaria.
Wow.
And of course we have staff in the UK too. So sort of Akron's always sort of funny to say that in that breath with those other cities. But that's where I'm based at. I work out of home like the rest of my team here. So it's we're pretty much a true viral company as is, there's more and more of those now post-pandemic.
I think there is so many people that, you keep hearing the news and you might hear it from certain friends or other colleagues that there's so many companies that want to bring these people back into the office. And it's like, if they're still doing the exact same job, if not better, at home, why would you want them to have to drive all that way, have to rent out an office space, all of this stuff just to have people in front of you so that you know that they're doing their jobs? It just makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I'm an old school guy. I worked in offices for, 30, 40 years. And it is a different way. Unfortunately, I guess I hope I'm not pissing anybody off on this, but we have a very senior staff at our company, so we don't really feel like we have to watch them. But I don't have any young guys, people under 30 working with us. I think we have one under 30. And that does change it. But I have a son who's a CPA tax accountant, and he works in an office in New York City, and goes, he's lucky to get people to come into offices 3 days a week now. Things have changed so much, growing up that, of course, you worked in the office 5 days, sometimes work 6. I remember working in the office on the day after Thanksgiving. It was not a day off, so uh, things change and for various reasons over the years.
Sure. So let's go all the way back in time. What is your earliest memory of either pro wrestling or combat sports in general?
My earliest memory, so I did not grow up around it.
Okay.
I didn't know much about it all. I worked in college sports. I was a YMCA director for 4 years before I went to graduate school. Between undergraduate and graduate, I worked for Davidson College. I worked for Ohio University, which is where I went to school at. Working in basketball programs, football programs. But my earliest memory is I loved watching Saturday Night Live, and I was real pissed off in 1985, sitting in my home there in Cornelius, North Carolina, which is near Davidson College. And I couldn't watch Saturday Night Live because this damn show called Saturday Night Main Event came on. And would never dreamed in my wildest dreams, only about 5 months after that, I went to go work for WWF. And when I finished out graduate school, yeah. So it's just, that's my earliest memory of wrestling. I really didn't know anything about wrestling beyond that before that.
Which is funny. I want to bring up here in a little bit, but you've mentioned it, so let's already go into it now. You worked for WWF you started in 1986. You then worked for WCW in 1992, and then you worked again for TNA in 05. How did you initially get with the WWF? Because like you just said, you didn't really watch it. You didn't really know anything about it. And if anything, they started off on the wrong foot because you couldn't watch Saturday Night Live.
Well, it is interesting. So I finished up my master's degree with Ohio University, and I was really my goal was to work in college sports. I wanted to work as a sports information director. I would kill to work for like Duke or North Carolina or Ohio State or someplace like that. So I was doing some volunteering at Ohio University when I was still there. I was married, my wife and kid at the time, well, still do, of course. And we were there, and my wife was bartending. She's finishing up her college degree, and said, "Okay, what the heck we're going to do?" Then all of a sudden, the professor who's head of the sports administration program, Dr. Higgins, called me and goes, "Hey, Mike, got a former OU alumni who's looking for an intern named Basil DeVito is his name." And interviewed on the phone with him probably for 30 minutes and said, "Hey, can you be in Stamford, Connecticut next week?" I said, "Hell yes." I had to look up Stanford on map, had no idea where it was at. I had never been further east than Pittsburgh. And I went to WWF as an intern 6 weeks before WrestleMania 2. If you remember WrestleMania 2,
Oh yeah.
they had I was in Chicago for the Battle Royal where we had all the NFL players. And my job was to make sure the NFL players had the right wrestling boots and wrestling tights and all that kind of stuff. And we back at that time we also had about 250 locations that had a closed circuit. So I had to call closed circuit location to make sure they had posters and advertising and all things they need to be able to well, we didn't use the term streaming then, but to air the actual show there in theaters, bars, restaurants, um, arenas. Actually, quite a few arenas carried that WrestleMania 2 closed circuit.
That's nuts. Yeah. For those that don't know, that one was from three different locations, something
Yeah.
they will definitely never do again. Um, but at the
Yeah.
time,
I mean, at the time, the technology is crazy.
exactly.
20,
You need to
excuse me,
try new
where we're at
things.
30, what, how many years later? 35 years later. It's
Hmm.
still crazy to have the first hour from New York, second hour from Chicago,
Hmm.
third hour from LA. I'll tell you one other old man story from that event. So John, how old are you?
I will be 41 in August.
Okay, so you probably didn't watch WrestleMania 2 live. I'm sure you probably have seen
Definitely
it.
not. Yes, I have
Uh,
seen.
but one thing taken for granted in wrestling now is mats around the ring.
Hmm.
That event in Chicago, only the Chicago version, is the first time they ever had mats around the ring. And the reason they did is because Vince self-insured all those NFL players' careers and wanted to make sure they get hurt. So they went to elementary school and took a mats off the wall of the basketball gym and laid them down on the floor around the ring. And the wrestlers in LA and New York who were watching the show on closed circuit there could not believe all those wusses. What do you mean? They got to have mats down. And now you can't imagine almost any wrestling show, including independents. I mean, not all independents use mats, but can you imagine an AEW or WWE show about mats around the ring? Of
No,
course
and that's
not.
what's so funny is that it's something that you don't think about because now it's just so commonplace. And that was the thing where you would even have if somebody was maybe trying to break a rule or really hurt their opponent, they would pull the pad up and it would be concrete underneath. But for decades before that, that's just how it was in general. There was no
Oh
padding.
yeah. Yeah, that's the first time they put the mats down. And Barry Fox, the local promoter, went to the elementary school where his kids went to school at, and they borrowed the mats and laid them down. Also, if you watch that, you'll see a young guy sitting ringside, myself, and my job was to catch Refrigerator Perry in case he fell out of the
Mm,
ring. Of course, I didn't have to do it. And he probably would have killed me anyway
yeah.
by the fall. But it's well, that was my introduction to pro wrestling.
So I heard you say that you worked WrestleMania 2, 3, and 4. Is that correct?
And five,
And
yeah.
5. Wow. So going from the being at one location at 2 and then working 3, which at, up until, years ago now, but was the biggest indoor attendance record for, any live sporting event, really. What was that like? Because the Silver Dome was like looking at those pictures and seeing, the carts bring everybody down, and then obviously the giganticness that is Andre versus Hogan. Like, what was it like being there, I guess? And then also, not only being there, but just going from where they had three locations to this massive thing that they had three.
Well, so The WrestleMania 3 was interesting. At my place, I was the PR guy. I ran the press box,
Hmm.
dealt with all the Michigan, Detroit press there. One thing still bothers me. I keep reading about it. There's so many people just want to crap on that event with attendance. The announced attendance was 93,173.
Hmm.
Now, I will probably agree that there probably was only about 88 or 89,000 people in the building. But this crap I read about, oh, there's 70,000 or 60,000.
Right.
They threw the doors open for free to everybody in the parking lot. Bullshit. That's all bullshit. And if you do see the pictures, every single seat was filled in that
Yeah.
building. That's a big building. It obviously the size of a football field.
Hmm.
I mean, when the Detroit Pistons used to play in there at that same time period, and they played just in one corner of the arena, and we're putting 25, 30,000 people in there just in a corner. I mean, there was over 10,000 people just on the floor because
Right.
it's up chairs wall to wall on the floor all the way through. Now, um, and ever was planned. The original plan was to actually use the basketball configuration that the Pistons used for the setup. But then the ticket sales took off. Of course, the storyline was unbelievably great with
Hmm.
Andre and Hulk. And yeah, if I remember right, the cheap seats were only $9. So those
Oh,
prices sell. Now you can, that looks like that's not 2024 number of
right. In
dollars.
the inflation, it would
Yeah,
be
I
what,
don't know what it'd be inflation.
50-ish?
Probably
Yeah.
it'd probably be comparable to 25 or $30,
Yeah.
which still is a reasonable price
Right.
ticket.
Uh-huh.
I live here in Akron, Ohio. I know WWE is coming here to play the Cleveland Stadium where the Browns play this summer here, but I really don't know what the pricing of those tickets are. But I'm sure even their cheap seats are a lot more than 30 or $40 probably.
Yeah. Oh, I imagine. Oh, yeah, because I remember when they came here to Dallas, they were, I think it was like $70 for the cheap seats. And I was like, nope, sorry. That is
Yeah, I
not for
actually had.
not for a Raw.
I was able to be at the Dallas WrestleMania. That's the event that they broke the
Mhm.
Silverdome record at.
Yeah. I was yeah, I've been lucky enough to be, I guess you can't count 2020, but the last 15 WrestleManias is a thing that my buddy and I do now. So yeah,
Oh,
we were
good.
there and I was like over 100,000. That is just absolutely nuts. And I was so happy for it.
Well, the cool thing about that event is I was up in the WWE suite and watched the show with Basil DeVito. And it was
Wow.
just really cool being able to watch him break the record that him and me had worked on back in the 80s. So yeah,
Right.
that was pretty cool. Yeah.
I just looked it up. $9 now is roughly 25,
Okay.
$26, which is
Okay.
still, yeah, still for cheap seats for that. Like that's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
So
it filled the house. It was a good event, and the fans were into everything. The electricity in that building was unbelievable then.
right, and then obviously, for the match that really stole the show was Savage and Steamboat, but
Yes.
obviously everybody talks about the main event because two of the biggest wrestling stars of all time going at it, and then the story behind that about Andre was barely able to even move. Andre or Hogan says, I mean, Hogan says a lot of things, but he says he didn't even know how it was going to go until Andre told him. He was like, "Oh, it is actually going to go this way. Great."
Yeah, that's pretty accurate there because nobody messed with Andre.
Oh yeah, he's the boss.
Yeah, he was yeah, he was great. And you know what? And that's first time I worked with him was that weekend, and he treated me like gold. And I was just a young intern straight out of graduate school, but he was great
Wow.
with me. Yeah, and I worked with Andre quite a bit. I was very fortunate. Andre was a feature in the Princess Bride movie, which I'm sure you're
Hmm.
familiar with,
Hmm.
and he I actually went to the screenings of the movie before it went public and stuff. And I said, oh my God, because we were doing publicity around it as a PR
Right.
guy. I needed to see it. And all his Mandy Patinkin, I think that's how you say his last name,
Oh
who
yeah.
was one of his co-stars there. I remember sitting with him in the green room when we were going on Regis